I come from a lot of trauma, just from my upbringing in my family life, experiencing. I'm from the South, and I grew up in a family that did not accept me for who I was. Um, I could feel things, understand things, see things as a child, and my family perceived that to be something of not of the light. So there was a lot of trauma that went along with that, a lot of abuse, a lot of degrading, a lot of mental breaking that went on with that. Well, tried to anyway, shall I say? Um, to a point that even my own family made me not accept myself. So I didn't see myself as anything, as a male, black male, anything. I just didn't really see myself as anything. I was a space. Um, but what was going on? I had been such an abusive childhood. I had detached from my body and was not living within my body. And so I played a role for most of my life of this trauma. It was just one thing after another. It didn't stop when I was a child. It went into my 20s. It went into my late 30s, um, until I decided to start a whole nother paradigm of what I perceived to be a safe family. So I took my kids when my kids were born and I just uprooted and left. And I didn't know where I was going, but I knew my kids was not going to grow up in that environment. I was going to give them love and compassion that I didn't have. Um, and when I started off on that, I didn't know where I was going to go, what that was going to look like, how that was going to transpire, but I was just guided to go. And that's where my healing started. It was just, like I said, one trauma after another trauma, to a point where I was forced to heal. And so I was given the opportunity to meet with a therapist who was mindful, who practiced mindfulness. And it could have been any other person, because the first time they tried to get me to get help, I refused. The person, I didn't jail with them or anything like that. And this person just really opened me up to the whole spiritual world that I was already experiencing, allowed me to accept myself, what I was going through, told me I was right, what I was experiencing, which opened me up and started to get me back into my body a little bit. So then what transpired is that he only could go so far with what was going on. And one day I came into the office with some serious, I was just being awakened, but it felt like something was trying to come out of my body. I was running around the office, jumping up and down, spinning, running, and he's like, "Whoa, I can't help you anymore. I need to call someone." So he called another therapist that he knew that does EMDR therapy, and sent me over there. And at this point, I am in such a emotional wreck, that I can't even drive. I'm just sitting in my car, just crying, sobbing, like I just want this to stop. I can't take this trauma anymore. I need help. And I was just praying to God, please, you promised me you'd take care of me. Please take this away. And I wasn't expecting this therapist to call me. She called me right away and got me in the next day. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't on fight or flight after therapy. And it was the weirdest experience to be grounded in this earth, and being back present. And I was like, oh my goodness. That started the journey. And for I'm on year 7 now. For about 4 of those years, when we did intense EMDR therapy, and just got into the deep roots of stuff and my trauma, and how I just escalated one thing after another thing after another. And then there was this point where she couldn't help me anymore. There was just something within me that was calling, and I didn't know what it was. And at this time, I was working at the hospital. So I was absorbing so much stuff from people, because my whole mission about how I was working at the hospital was, I didn't care how the perception of what people were going through. I live in Lincoln, Nebraska, and it's predominantly 90% Caucasian. And you have a lot of small town people around there. So in the hospital, they would come and they would see me and they'd have their projections of what I was and this and that. And so I would feel all this negativity and this fear from people, for me helping them, assisting them to be well. And so I was like, I'm not going to allow you to demeanor who you are. I'm going to come at you with so much love and compassion that you're going to accept this help of healing. And you're not going to view me as you see me, but you're going to view me from my spirit. And so I would go in these rooms and I would just do whatever I could to make these people feel okay, even though they have fear or pain or anger or resentment towards me. I wouldn't stop. I would love them even more. I would spend extra time bathing them. I would make sure I would check on them more often, do whatever I could to make them, by the time they left, they go, I have a different perspective of what that culture is, because I just felt some incredible love and compassion from someone, even more so than my family.